Never allow yourself to be someone's convenience or second choice. And when I said that to myself and I put it in my journal, man, I was just like, man, like I don't never want to feel like that. Like I don't never want to be someone's convenience. I don't want to have relationships in which someone is around because they know like I'm a nice dude and I'm caring and whatever else, and I'll they can just call me and they can just show up. They can just you know plop right back into my life whenever they feel is necessary or fit for them. Maybe because they had a bad breakup or they're going through something or they feel lonely and they need connection, right? Like I'm not someone's convenience, and I'm definitely not someone's second choice. You know what I mean? It's just not going to happen, and I don't think that needs to happen for you either. Don't let it happen for you either, right? So we're not going to be someone's convenience, regardless of what we need. All right, man. Welcome back to another episode. I appreciate you guys. For those of you that have already been tapping in with me since the beginning, since we started this thing, thank you so much for your continued support. If you are new to the podcast or you are new to me, again, thank you so much for showing up and giving us a shot. Today, I want to talk to you guys about the power of being less accessible, more so as it relates to being in relationships. So, me finding myself in the dating world again. I don't want to put myself in a position in which I've been in before in dating when you have that feeling of you're kind of latching on to someone. More so maybe because things necessarily maybe aren't healed within inside you yet, which is why that is triggering certain actions from you. But I wanted to speak more about the accessibility that you have with a certain someone, whether you're, getting to know that person or you just started dating that person. But I do think there's a fine line, and I think we got to watch ourselves as it relates to being too accessible to someone, especially when it comes to relationships in which the energy isn't the same, right? The reciprocation of effort and action isn't the same. And that could be very, very tricky. And if you're not careful, you're not watching yourself, that could really lead you into a lot of heartbreak, into a lot of sadness, potentially depression, things of that nature. So I just wanted to kind of touch on that, because we are in the seasoning of dating and stuff like that. And like I said, I've gone through it before, and I don't really want to find myself doing that again. And so I kind of want to throw some just some experience from my own dating past, and then some of the things that you guys can do and we can do as together to really avoid being too accessible to someone. I think a lot of us, we kind of find ourselves being too accessible to someone, whether it's a new relationship or it's a previous relationship we had, because we find ourselves searching or trying to meet a need, right? So a lot of the times, like, the reason why we become so accessible to somebody, right? Whether it's picking up every single phone call or it's answering every single text as soon as it comes in, right? Or, if it's like dropping our own schedule because this person says they're available right now, and so we're going to drop everything we're going to do to go find time and make that person a priority. But I think a lot of the times that comes from, it stems from, wanting connection, with another human being. It stems from, wanting intimacy, whether that's emotional or physical, right? It could be wanting attention from a certain individual, right? Or at any individual, right? If you've been out of the dating world long enough, or maybe you're rebounding, so to speak, from a previous relationship, and you've been accustomed to having that connection, you don't really want that to go, and so you latch on to the first person that gives you that attention and that comfort. I think it also stems from just our own desires, right? We have our own desires of whatever that looks like for our individual selves. Validation is another one too, right? Where it's like, this person validates me just on a human level because I'm here. They're allowing me to be present, and they may say or do certain things that get you giddy or whatever, right? And it kind of tricks you into thinking that this person is truly, has your best interest at heart. And a lot of the times as it relates to accessibility, it's usually from a person that, again, isn't reciprocating the same energy, right? I'll tell you, like, one of my experiences that I've had previously in the past where I was being too accessible to this person because, again, it was one of those things where I was trying to meet, right? Where there was, I wanted the emotional connection. I wanted sex, right? I wanted just to connect with someone. I didn't want to feel alone at that time or whatever it was. That person wasn't reciprocating back to me what I was willing to give. It was like this person knew I was accessible, right? So this person knew that, maybe I didn't have much going on at the time, or, this person knew that, they could text me, whenever they wanted. They can call me whenever they want it, you know what I mean? And that weighs on you, and right? And so it took, like, obviously it took a lot of, me going through the journey, going through the process, right? And understanding, like, what an actual relationship should look like, should feel like, for the most part, right? And how each person in that relationship should act towards the other person, right? And it just took that understanding, and it took me finally realizing, like, how I was being used in that particular situation, right? Or maybe that's you, right? Where you finally start to see, like, damn, like, I'm answering this person's every single phone call, or, like, as soon as they text, like, I'm texting right away, you know what I mean? Or it's like, whatever the case may be. And you finally start to recognize, like, yo, like, what am I doing? You know what I mean? Especially when you get to the point where you're fed up because, again, things aren't being reciprocated. And so that's, I've been there before, and I'm sure some of you guys that are probably listening have either have current experiences with it or you had past experiences with it. But I think altogether, I'm sure we can all agree that that's not a space in which we want to operate, right? And anyone wants to operate. And I think another thing too, as far as the needs, in which we take action from, is like, if we've been out of love for quite some time, like if you're someone that has been out of a relationship for a year, 3 years, 5, 10 years, right? And so you may start to miss that feeling of love. And so, again, those types of needs are what is going to urge you to take those actions that aren't the best in your interest. Does that make sense? And so we got to be very careful of what we're doing in these relationships. And we definitely have to understand why we're doing them, because a lot of the times the things that we're doing, it's not because we need them from someone else. It's because we need them from our own selves, right? So a lot of things. So the things that I mentioned earlier, where it was like, connection and sex and intimacy and validation and love, right? Comfort. If you truly unpack those things, those all relate to self-love and self-worth, right? And so a lot of the things that we're exerting or that we're looking for in the other person is exactly what we need to fill within ourselves. That way we won't be out there, answering every single phone call and dropping our schedule and making someone else a priority and us being their second choice. You know what I mean? Like, that's not going to be the case anymore, because we understand, okay, I need to feel this within myself. I need to get myself connection. I need to be more emotionally intimate with myself, right? I need to validate my own self. And I think as you guys begin to work on that, you'll start to see, like, okay, I don't need, like, the more I have within myself, the less I need from others, right? Like, everything I need is I already have, and just what I receive on the outside is just gravy on top. It's just extra, it's more so, it turns into more so of a want than it is a need, if that makes any sense. And so I think that if we're not careful enough, we can certainly run into some problems, and those problems can derive from a lot of situations. But one of the things that we can take a look at is, like, you'll begin to be taken for granted. So you'll notice that obviously the more accessible you are to this individual, right, the more they're going to take advantage of you, right? The more they're going to see you as someone who's not busy, like you ain't got nothing going on, right? And they're going to notice that, and they're going to abuse that, right? And I think that, again, that's going to lead to you being taken for granted for maybe your kindness and your love and your sympathy that you offer, and your how empathetic you are, and just the shoulder that you provide someone to listen and lean on, right? It all gets taken for granted, and then you'll notice that your cup becomes empty. Your cup becomes empty, and you feel like you're being depleted, and you're never being regenerated, right? You're never being restored, right? That energy and that focus isn't being put back into you for you to keep going, right? It's almost like, man, this person is taking every drop of me that I can give, and they're not giving anything back. They're not re-energizing me, And so you will definitely want to avoid, having to deal with that particular problem. I think another big problem that you run into when you are too accessible to someone is that over time, you begin to lose your self-worth, right? You begin to lose how others value you and how you value yourself. And that's a big one, because this is when it gets to leading into loneliness and depression and again, self-worth, right, in its entirety, and your confidence and your courage, and just it leads into all of that. And that, if you get yourself in that type of mindset, that could really shift all actions, within your life. Not even just outside of relationships, right? But that can also start to affect your personal relationships, and your business and your work, and your habits and things of that nature. And it can really spin you out of cycle. And so you got to be very careful, to maintain and to have your self-worth intact, because that is like the backbone of you, right? Like that's, excuse me, like that is going to be the part of you that is the glue that really holds you together, so that when things go awry and relationships, bad things happen in relationships and whatever, breakups and all this other stuff or whatever, your self-worth is going to be the thing that's going to keep you intact. It's like, okay, I'm going through this is happening, but I'm a strong enough individual. I can handle it, right? Or I know I'll get through it, right? I'll work through it, and I'll be better on the other side. And so if that's not intact, then you'll find yourself broken, in small pieces, and you'll find yourself literally staying in your house all the time. You'll find yourself laying in bed all the time. You'll find yourself, on your couch just binge watching shows and eating ice cream and whatever else that people do when they're in those types of funks. And so I think it's very important that you do have a very good grasp on your self-worth, and the view of others and how they value you will change as well, right? Because when you're someone of value, right, you've met someone who seems very, very valuable, right? We're not talking monetary. We're not talking about what they wear, what kind of car they drive, anything like that. We're talking about someone, man or woman, that stands tall, right? That knows what they want, that has a belief about whatever it is that they believe in, right? Whether it's spirituality, whether it's their beliefs about how a family's supposed to be raised, how the ideals of money, like whatever it is, right? You could just tell that person's like, man, this person's got it put together, because they just walk tall. They're just strong-minded. They know themselves. They don't waver for anyone, right? They don't give into temptation. They don't allow others' beliefs to stir their beliefs, right? They're fixated in who they are, and that person has a very strong self-worth, and you can feel that. And so that's the type of person that we need to be. But if we're not careful enough, then that will go awry. I think another problem that we run into as well is you lose respect for yourself. This was a big one for me, because when I found out that, not found out, but I guess when I realized, right, what I was doing to myself, I lost a lot of respect for myself. You know what I mean? Because I automatically think very highly of myself already. And I think that I was put on this earth to do great things. What those things are, I have no idea. I just know that I'm meant for more in life, right? And so I do keep a very high regard on myself in every facet of life. And when I realized, like, man, like why am I acting this way? Like, why am I allowing this person to use me up the way they are? You know what I mean? It was like Mike, bro, what are you doing? You know what I mean? And so I got down on myself, because I'm like, man, like, why would you allow someone to have that effect on you? But obviously, it happens to everyone, and it's just a part of life. And so I think that that could be another major problem that we run into, especially if we're not careful, as we begin to lose respect for ourselves and and the respect of others. Because I think that, if this gets out of hand, we could really spin this to where now it affects the next person, right? So let's say that the person that's not treating us the way that we should be treated often leaves or whatever, right? Well, if we still have this same kind of stigma that, okay, most people are going to treat me this way, or everyone, does this in a relationship, then that next person that comes in, you're already going to have a wall up, right? And you're already going to be operating from a place of like, I don't know, like just hardness, right? And like cold, you know what I mean? And you're not really giving that person a chance because you're already kind of blocked off because, again, you lost respect for yourself and you've also lost respect for others. And so it's going to make it harder for anyone else to kind of, break those walls down because you have a wall up. And so I think it's just very important that you keep that in mind. And then lastly, I would say, as far as the problems that could arise from being too accessible to someone, is that if you look at the energy that you use to create the life that you want, you'll notice that starts to get depleted, right? So you won't have the same vigorous energy that you have to go out and be rambunctious and to go out and be courageous and do things and take on life. You'll be more soft and you'll be more careful, right? And you may not move at the same speed that you once did when you were full of vigor, right? And you had the energy to like just go, right? Because you're so down on yourself and you're so down on the situation that it really affects your energy, right? And your life force, and things begin to move a little slower, and you're just not the same person. You're not the same person that you you can be, right? And so those are the problems that, again, could arise if you aren't careful and you're allowing too much of yourself to be placed on someone else, and to be too accessible to anyone else. So I guess my next pivot point would be then, okay, so how do we limit that accessibility to someone, right? How do we limit that? And I think the first thing that you have to do is prioritize yourself. You gotta put yourself in a position where, okay, you make the stance, okay, this is about me, right? Now, I'm not saying that you go out and you just be selfish. What I'm saying is there has to be a true understanding within yourself that I'm going to prioritize me first, right? I'm going to make sure that my cup is full. I'm going to make sure that I have what I need, I'm going to make sure that I'm going to the gym if that's what I like to do, right? I'm going to make sure that I'm making time for myself, self-care, right? That I'm doing those things. I'm going to make sure that the needs that I need to have, I'm going to fill those first. I'm not going to rely on anyone else to fill those. And so that's what I mean by prioritizing yourself first, right? And so prioritize yourself. Be that one person that takes care of you, right? Takes care of you, because anything else that comes after that, again, is no longer a need. It's a want. I want someone to do these things for me or whatever, or bring me connection, whatever, right? But I don't need it because I have enough within myself, right? Does that make sense? So I would say the first thing that you do to limit your accessibility is you got to prioritize yourself. You got to make yourself the important person, right? And I think once you guys understand this, and once you guys actually implement this in your life, you'll realize, like for me, like when I prioritize myself and my self-care and what I need, I have like way much more to give. Like my energy is way up. You know what I mean? Like I'm ready to give out some stuff. You know what I mean? And so because I'm good, at the core of me, I'm good. I'm happy, I'm vibrant. Things are moving in my and work, and and my business is moving, and my kids are straight, and our relationships are good with my kids, and blah blah blah. Like everything's good. So then when this next relationship, this next person comes up, I can give. I'm ready to I'm ready to give it all I got. So I'm operating from a great place because I'm putting myself first before anything else or anyone else. I think the second thing that you need to do, as far as limit your accessibility, is to identify your worth, right? You got to identify your own self-worth. Like, what do you stand for? What are your values? What are your morals? What does a relationship to you look like, right? What do you want it to look like? What are some things that you won't take right? What are some things that you don't stand for, right? Bad communication and disrespect and, physical violence, things of that nature. Like, you got to understand who you are. Who are you? Not only as an individual in this world, but like, who are you in a relationship? Who do you want to be in a relationship, right? And so, definitely identify your own worth, because that you're going to be your own Superman in that relationship, right? Because you bring the source. The power starts from you. You're the source, right? And so you bring all the good energy and the vibes, to half of a relationship. That other person brings their good vibes and energy to the other half of a relationship, and now things are operating at a more smoother level than what they previously were. I don't know if I've coined this, but never allow yourself to be someone's convenience or someone's second choice. Never allow yourself to be someone's convenience or second choice. And when I said that to myself and I put it in my journal, man, I was just like, man, like, I don't never want to feel like that. Like, I don't never want to be someone's convenience. I don't want to have relationships in which someone is around because they know, like, I'm a nice dude and I'm caring and whatever else, and they can just call me and they can just show up. They can just plop right back into my life whenever they feel is necessary or fit for them. Maybe because they had a bad breakup, or they're going through something, or they feel lonely and they need connection, right? Like, I'm not someone's convenience, and I'm definitely not someone's second choice. You know what I mean? It's just not going to happen. And I don't think that needs to happen for you either. Don't let it happen for you either, right? So we're not going to be someone's convenience, regardless of what we need, right? Because if our impulses are a lot stronger, and our needs are really like grasping for that connection and that love and that validation, then we have a lot of work to do. You need to not be in a relationship. You need to not try and be in a relationship, and you need to work on yourself. You need to focus on, okay, getting that under control, because if you don't get that under control, you're always going to be at the mercy of someone else's expense, right? You're always going to be at the mercy of someone else giving you the validation and someone else providing you whatever it is that you need, and you'll never be able to do it for yourself. So don't be someone's convenience. Don't be someone's second choice. Mark Twain had a good saying. He said, never allow someone to be your priority while allowing yourself to be their option, which I thought was really good, right? I'll read it again. Never allow someone to be your priority while allowing yourself to be their option. Life's too short. Life's too short. There's too many people in this world. There's too many opportunities in this world, and I think a lot of the times we can kind of get in our own head, especially if we've had a very limited love life where it's like, man, I don't know if this person is going to come back into my life. I don't know if I'm ever going to find another person like this. And so I better stay with him. I better stay with her, or I better do all I can, or I better just put up with it. And it's like, bro, like, that's the wrong mindset to have. Baby girl, that's the wrong mindset to have. Like, there's plenty of guys out there that will treat you better, and that will be better for you, and vice versa. Right. And there's plenty of girls out there, women out there that will be the right fit for you and meet you on your level and all those things, right? And so don't allow someone else to be your priority, especially when they're not reciprocating, when they know they can go out and find someone else, and they know that, you're hung up on them, and they're like, well, he ain't gonna go nowhere. I can do whatever I want. He ain't gonna do nothing. She ain't gonna go nowhere, And so this is why we have to fix this for ourselves. We can't allow anyone else to come in and be our savior. We have to be our own savior when it comes to relationships and being too accessible to someone because of what we need to work on internally. So, I would say all that to say this is just continue to focus on you, right? Continue to get yourself to a space in which your mindset is good, right? And your confidence within yourself is good, and your self-worth is up, and you just know you. Right. And there's no wavering from that. And so whatever relationship that you happen to get into, because you can't necessarily control the other person and how that's going to transpire. I mean, to a certain degree, right? By doing your due diligence and going out on dates and kind of, seeing what they're like in different atmospheres and not convoluting the ability to get to know them with expensive restaurants and exchange of money and gifts and all these things, right? Just casual, common coffee dates, right? FaceTime conversations, sit at the park, like whatever, right? And just truly get to know someone on that level. But like I was saying, you can't predict what's going to happen, but at least when you know that you're strong enough in your core, you have the self-worth there, right? The confidence, the courage is there. Your needs are intact, right? And you're meeting those needs versus having someone else meet those needs. You're definitely going to be more prepared for whatever transpires, whether it's another heartbreak coming up in your life or you realize that this person is not a good match for you, whatever the case may be. You're able to walk away and say, you know what, that's okay. This is for a reason. This happened for a reason. They came in for a season. So if you're out there, male or female, and you're looking to date, you're currently dating, make sure that you got yourself in a position in which you could think clearly, right? And you're not allowing yourself to be too accessible because you're hooked on the way the person looks, the way they make you feel, all that stuff, right? Take it in stride. I'm not saying that you can't experience those feelings, right? It's nice to be needed and it's nice to, and all that stuff, but take it easy. Don't allow someone to take advantage of that, of that beauty that you have, that strength that you have within inside you. So, yeah, man, that's all I wanted to talk to you with you guys about. I appreciate you guys for listening in and tapping in with me once again. Again, if you guys are on YouTube and you're watching this, please subscribe to the channel. I currently right now, as it sits right now, we're at 950 subscribers. Your boy trying to get to 1,000. So please, if you haven't subscribed, please hit that subscribe button and share it with those that will take a liking to it and kind of have the same mindset as you. And if you are listening to it on the podcast, again, I appreciate you. The more reviews we can have, the more distance we can cover in helping other people too. So without further ado, as I always say, I appreciate you guys, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks a lot.